Hello people, I am Jaby KOAY, joined by ACHARA KIRK.
Hi guys.
We're going to talk about Ghoul Season 1, Episode 1. We're going to do this in episodes, there's only 3 altogether. The reason I want to do this in episodes is because I feel like if we do all 3 at once, we might miss out on talking about some specific ideas from particular episodes. Also, if we did all 3, it might end up being like an hour-long review, and I don't feel like doing that. Let's start off with the IMDb description for episode 1, Out of the Smokeless Fire. After exposing her father's anti-government activities, Nida Rahim is inducted as the newest interrogator at the remote Megdut 31 detention center. So the majority of this video is gonna have spoilers. If you wanna know whether or not you should watch it based off of our interpretation of the first episode, I think it's worth watching.
It was really hard to not go straight onto the second episode. I was like, Jaby, could we just move on to the next one? Because I'm completely hooked already. Right. If that's not an endorsement, I don't know what is.
If you guys want to watch it first and then watch this, that makes sense, then we won't get mad at you. Go ahead and pause the video and watch that and come back.
Come back.
We'll wait for you, don't worry. All right, so let's proceed. Here on in, there will be spoilers, just FYI. So the first thing that obviously comes to mind is the overlap with something like Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah.
I didn't read Fahrenheit 451, but I did watch Equilibrium. I know it's not the same thing, but I feel like there's a great deal of overlap between Equilibrium and Fahrenheit 451 with like the burning of the art and the books.
Yeah.
And you have these people who are supposed to enforce this our stupid law of education and art not being allowed.
Well, there's this thing that's been going on throughout history when it comes to controlling people. The first thing you do is control the intellectuals, control education, control art, control books.
Right.
And it keeps coming up. It's been a long time since I've read Fahrenheit 451, but you're right, it does have a lot of the same tones.
At least in the introduction. So from that angle, I actually like that online. I like stories like 1984 and Fahrenheit 451, Equilibrium, The Matrix, all those stories about like government control and fighting against the oppression. I think that's cool. That's a good place to start. I wasn't expecting that because all I remember from the trailer was it mostly took place in one location and it's kind of this horror house sort of situation where they're maybe they're trying to get out, maybe they're just trying to survive. There's like ghouls who are like trying to kill these people, and that's all I got from it. I wasn't expecting this kind of a setup, which episode 1 mostly is.
Exactly,
and,
but it's such a good setup.
Right. In Equilibrium, Christian Bale turns in Sean Bean, essentially, his partner, and then becomes part of the movement against what he stood for.
It seems to be a thing in these type of stories where the hero is the one who is indoctrinated into the system, and then they start seeing the cracks, and then they start feeling like, actually, this is very, very wrong.
So from a technical perspective, I really appreciate this show so far, from the directing, the editing, the lighting, like whatever the DOP, the director of photography was doing, the acting, like all of it is just, it's firing on all cylinders. Like this is a very well-crafted, like restrained measure. Like I just really like how it's put together. It's not rushing through the story. It's telling it at a very like slow and mysterious but inviting pace. All the camera angles are really cool. Like there's some really creative shots in there, and I really appreciate like the meticulous effort put into all of that. So right from the get-go, like you see this kind of panning shot with the cops as they're moving with their guns.
Yeah.
Like all that stuff is just, it moves really nicely. The music is it's like, the music almost reminds me of Sacred Games. I don't know if it's the same composer, but like the music in the beginning has this like kind of drum beat, and it's like, it just gets your heart going. You're like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? But that being said, I felt like the opening was a little bit anticlimactic. Like it just kind of like, it's all leading into this hallway with this guy, and then you see the Ali Sahid or whatever his name is. That's the end of the opening. Like nothing major, nothing explosive or violent happened in the opening.
But I liked that.
Oh,
I liked that because like the whole time I was really, really tense, and I was expecting something to happen. And then all you see at first is the like matted, dirty, crazy guy who's got the like demonic symbol carved into his body.
No, that was creepy.
That was creaky.
Creaky. That was very creaky.
That was creaky and creepy. You see Ali Syed, you think he's dead, but then he's not, and he whispers something to the guy, and immediately I'm like, what is it? this is gonna change everything. My mind is already spinning.
Right.
I'm like, okay, is he suddenly gonna become a demon too? Is everything gonna fall apart? We're gonna find out about this later, I am sure.
Right. I'm not one to just like have violence for the sake of violence, but I feel like I needed something in there where, I mean, okay, it's just the first episode, but because it's this opening, it feels like to have that punch, that, forgive my language, but to have that moment of ejaculation, like you needed to like bite his neck or something.
I was expecting that.
You needed something just to like put a button on this sequence, because it's like all very creepy, and it's like building up, and then it's just this quiet like, oh, but let go of him, otherwise we're gonna shoot you, and then it fades out. I'm like, okay, I respect it because it is usurping your expectation.
Yes,
right?
I like that.
That I respect. But there's another part of me that's like, oh, but it would have been great if there was like a punch in there, some kind of thing. I don't know what, but.
I feel like that thing is gonna come in later episodes. Right. Like they're holding back. Right now, they're serving us mystery, and they're serving us mystery in spades. I'm like, gosh, this is so mysterious.
Yeah.
This dude is so mysterious. The government, so mysterious.
Right.
There are so many questions that are left unanswered right now.
Back to some of the technical stuff, like right after that, you get up to speed with where the world is at, what's going on. And one of the things I noticed right away was the incredible sound design. Like there was a woman who was like crying about like her child or something like that. And just the way it was all edited together. The people behind this are crafting such a great show. It just feels so cinematic and just so like, it feels like they put so much thought into how exactly the audience is going to feel with every little detail. Sound is a huge thing to me. And,
Yeah.
and I thought that it was just perfectly crafted.
And it's especially important in horror films because
Yes.
like when you watch a horror film with no sound, you're actually okay. Which is why my favorite position when watching horror is this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a scene at a locker room before Radhika Apte moves on and actually like gets more familiar with
The prison.
The prison, yeah. And there's a shot inside a locker door, which is not my favorite of shots, but I thought it was creative. But what followed was this one still shot, like this locked off shot of the head female soldier person, and like the lighting on her face, the shadows and whatnot. There was just something so creepy about that. It was just like perfectly lit, that particular shot. Not a whole lot was happening, but you got a feeling from it.
Talking about shots and feelings, I felt the same way about certain shots where it was just Radhika Apte on
Yeah.
her own, particularly the one where she's in her academy and it starts out with a bunch of people and then it kind of just turns into her and they're talking about like, what are terrorists? Terrorists are this,
Yeah, I
blah,
like
blah,
that
blah.
shot a lot.
That shot was really cool because it got me thinking. I went, wait, so is the government the terrorist? Or are the terrorists the terrorists? That's the question that I'm asking while I'm watching this. I'm like,
Yeah.
who is the bad guy here?
Well, yeah, I mean,
It's not what it
obviously,
seems.
obviously it's the government in this particular instance, but I thought you were talking about something else because I thought that was actually beautifully lit. It had like this kind of blue look over everything, and so everyone looked kind of dead in a way. And I think that's the point, is that all these people are like, they're kind of dead inside. They're like zombies blindly following this path, but you see Radhika Apte and there's like this little, I don't know if it was on purpose, but there was like this glimmer of like hope that we as the audience feel, right? Because she's obviously starting, it's starting to percolate, the idea that maybe this isn't right. It's like just starting to, the seed is there.
Yeah, I think the seed is there in her upbringing, right? Because
Right.
her dad is an intellectual, and it was really hard for her to give him up, but she felt like it was the right thing to do.
Overall, I thought the show was very grounded.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was one part that was a little bit, I mean, it's starting to indicate the horror aspect of the show, right? But when Ali comes out of the truck and there's this like lightning bolt, I was like, oh my God. Like normally that's cheesy to me, but I thought that was just so perfect. It's a perfect way to just like put a button on the first episode as a way to like kind of finish this out, because the dogs got freaked out and whatnot. I'm like, oh, like there's
supernatural.
Yeah, it's like this slow burn of like slowly letting you on. It's slowly letting on what's going on here, and that there's something like super, like you said, supernatural about to happen, but you're not quite sure what.
I really like this type of horror where it's like, you know, it's a little bit of a slow burn and it's got that supernatural element.
Right. It gets under your skin more.
It really does.
But like I said earlier, I think everything was thoughtfully measured, and I really appreciate that. It's not that often you see these days where something is that thoughtfully measured just on all, you know, on every level. It's actually surprising to me that it doesn't have a higher score. It's at 7.9, and it might be because the people, I don't know why that might be. I'm not even gonna try to take a guess as to why, but I feel like it's a 10. So far. Like, the next 2 episodes could be garbage, but like, the first episode was a good setup, and I'm like, oh, I definitely want to see what happens next.
Speaking about layers, I feel like there are a lot of layers thematically in here, at least from what I'm seeing, like the whole, you know, who are the terrorists? The government is terrorizing their people, but there are these terrorists. And then also, you know, with Radhika Apte coming into the prison, they're kind of tricking her because she's kind of being interrogated as well. Like, they're sussing her out because they believe that, you know, she could be a terrorist as well. But in the meantime, she's also going to be interrogating this dude. And like, I can't wait to see them get in the room together.
Right.
I'm scared and excited at the same time.
You guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Please let us know your thoughts on Season 1, Episode 1 of Ghoul in the comments below. And subscribe if you haven't already. Check out our other reactions, reviews, and short films. I'm Jaby KOAY. This is
ACHARA KIRK.
Peace out.